Hi, I'm Anne-Marie from brambleberry.com, and today I'm going to show you a great beginner melt and pour recipe. But there's nothing basic about this beginner recipe. We are using one of Brambleberry's favorite fragrance oils, espresso, freshly ground, freshly made coffee, literally using the coffee grounds from this morning's coffee that then we spread out, get some of the excess liquid out, and then put in this soap, and most excitingly, some coffee seed oil. It is literally oil that is pressed from the coffee bean. It smells amazing, has antioxidants, and of course polyphenols. So in this recipe, the coffee seed oil imparts really great moisture and conditioning properties. One thing to keep in mind is, as with any melt and pour recipe, you always want to keep your oil additives to about 1 teaspoon per pound of soap, or else they start to weigh down the lather. So let's get started. First things first. Well, with melt and pour soap, it's pretty fast and easy. Melt and Pour is a pre-made soap base that literally has some extra glycerin added to it, some heat sources added to it ahead of time, so that once you remelt it down in the microwave, it actually hardens up quickly again, and it's ready to use right away. No cure time, safe for use with children. In fact, my kids have been making Melt and Pour soap with adult supervision since they were about 2 years old. In this case, I'm using the Brambleberry Goat's Milk Melt and Pour soap, which is wonderfully skin conditioning and skin loving. So in addition to that coffee seed oil, we have the goat's milk properties, which with its lactic acid helps to promote softer skin through cellular turnover, which is just a fancy way of saying the lactic acid in the milk helps to make your skin slough off any dead skin cells that might be holding it down or weighing it down. So the little chunks here are really helpful, not just because they help me with ease of measuring and weighing, but because in the microwave, the chunks help the soap melt down more evenly. If I was just putting a giant chunk of soap in the microwave, like literally like the big block, what ends up happening is the microwave melts it unevenly, and you end up with kind of a gelatinously weird blob of soap that is both sort of melty on one side, but also very burned on the other. So you always want to melt your soap down in these kind of little blocks. And then another tip is when you're using this in the microwave, just melt it down on 30-second bursts, even though it does seem like it takes a little longer because you don't want to scorch any of your soap. Now that our soap is fully melted, it's time to add the fragrance, and in this case, the vanilla color stabilizer. Vanilla color stabilizer is a product that Brambleberry sells that helps keep your whites white and makes the discoloration that happens with, say, a vanilla-based, or in this case, a coffee-based fragrance from happening. So normally, because of the natural ingredients in this espresso fragrance, the coffee extracts and the like, the soap will actually go brown. But here, we're going to be adding vanilla color stabilizer, which is technically a fragrance component. So the actual INCI, the international nomenclature name for it, is fragrance. You add it in direct proportion, like a 1-to-1 proportion or ratio to the fragrance. So in this case, we did 0.4 ounces of the fragrance. We'll do 0.4 ounces of the vanilla color stabilizer. Okay, and now you just mix the whole thing in and you are done. And that will help your soap from turning the full color of brown that it normally would have gone without the vanilla color stabilizer. It's totally optional, but in order to get this kind of look and hue and shade, you do have to do that. Otherwise, you'll end up with a much more brown soap. So this is cold process soap, and the vanilla color stabilizer does not work in cold process soap, unfortunately, but I did want you to see the natural color that the espresso goes if you don't use vanilla color stabilizer. It's a very different color. And now it's time to add that coffee seed oil. I'm just going to do a teaspoon, but not like a perfect teaspoon, a pretty big heaping teaspoon. Because remember, we can add up to about 1 teaspoon of extra fixed oils to your melt and pour soap before it really starts to inhibit lather all that much. And so this will leave the skin feeling really conditioned and nice and silky smooth because it'll leave a little fine layer of the coffee seed oil on your skin after you're done with your shower. Since this is an oil, you do have to stir it in really well. And of course, since this is opaque and you can't see if you stirred it in really well, make sure you just give it an extra few, 20, 30 seconds. So that way you're really certain that all the additives have been stirred in fully. I'm gonna do a quick temperature check before I add my coffee grounds. So right now I'm about 148, which is just a little bit warm to suspend Because what we really are looking for is we're looking for the soap to be viscous enough to suspend the coffee grounds. I'm just doing about 1 teaspoon. And you know, beauty's in the eye of the beholder here. You can always add more, but remember, if you add more, the more scrubby the whole thing gets. And so we were looking for a functional bar of soap that doesn't take the entire first layer of your skin off. So I like this scrubbiness. You could do a little bit more if you like a more scrubby bar of soap though. So now I'm just gonna kind of give it a quick visual check. Are my grounds staying suspended? If they're not staying suspended in here, they're never gonna stay suspended in your smaller bar of soap. And in this case, they're doing pretty well. I see a little tiny bit of droppage from the top, but honestly on the sides, I see no movement whatsoever. So I feel great about this. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour. And I'm gonna make sure my rubbing alcohol is at the ready, just to spray on the back to get rid of any extra bubbles. And in this case, I'm gonna fill these mostly to the tippy top, because that's exactly how much soap I made. And I do see lots of bubbles forming. So I am also going to give this a quick stir, make sure everything's fully suspended, spray those bubbles away, and move on to the next 2. So now I'm just gonna let this sit for about 4 to 6 hours on the counter and then come back and pop these out. So I made these soaps yesterday, and they are in the silicone cavity mold from Bramble, and they come out really easily. And I love that they're just a little translucent. I can see the kind of next layer of the coffee grounds on there, which is really fun. I do notice that I have more coffee grounds on this side than that side, but honestly, they're distributed pretty well throughout. And let me smell. It smells so good. It smells just like a freshly pulled shot of espresso. So the awesome thing about Melt and Pour is that you can give these away right away. You can sell them right away. You can store them for a while and sell them when it's convenient for you. But Melt and Pour doesn't have any cure time or anything like that. So these are ready to use right away once they get popped out of the mold. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up below, and of course subscribe to our channel so every single time we come out with a video you're notified. And when you make this project or any other project, we would love to see it out in the wild with the hashtag #BrambleOn. So I see your stuff, our team sees your stuff, and more importantly, your fellow soap makers and artisans also see the products you make and get inspired right alongside you. Until next time, happy soaping. I had forgotten the original Soap Queen sound. It's in my head now.